Hey guys, my name is Lisa, I'm an industrial designer, and in this video I'm gonna give you a brief introduction of different fields that you can work in as an industrial designer after graduation. So this video might be helpful for those who are going to start building their first industrial design portfolio and don't know what to specialize on, or for those who are just interested in figuring out what industrial design actually is. So let's jump into it. So to start off with, I remember that when I was in high school, I didn't know what industrial design was. And for some reason, I thought that it was the same as furniture design. And so did all of my group mates. So we're gonna just start with this particular field first. Yes, you can work as a furniture designer with an industrial design degree, but at least here in Russia, there are also some universities that specialize on furniture design, and students get like a furniture design degree, but it doesn't really matter because the design methods are pretty much the same in industrial and in furniture design. So speaking of the particular job hunting process, so at least based on my personal experience, what I see in the market is that companies, when they're looking for a furniture designer, they most of the time are looking for a styling designer. So this means that you will not work too much on new mechanisms in the furniture field, while you will be more focused on the style and how a new furniture, like sofa or a chair, looks like. Of course, there are different approaches to furniture design as well as in any other field of design, and I'm sure that there are companies that want to invent something new, new mechanisms, play out with different materials, but most of the time, as I said, it's about style. The next field, which is pretty close to furniture, and it is lighting. In lighting design, there are also two segments. The first one is an interior lighting designer, and the second one is the exterior one. Some of my group mates after graduation chose this particular field because it's pretty popular nowadays, at least again here in Russia. And they not only do the lighting, but they also do something like benches, trash cans, or stuff like that. And as a designer in this field, you can work in architecture studios, in construction agencies, or even in landscape design studios. Speaking of the exterior type of products that you can design, you can also specialize on playgrounds. And I have been interviewed for such position twice. And again, it's a very different approach from all of the other fields of design because you have to really focus on the safety when it comes to materials, the shape of different elements of the playground, and you have to work very closely with the engineers, like in any other fields basically, but here it's even more important because it directly affects kids' life, and kids think differently comparing to adults. So yeah. Another big field that you can go to as an industrial designer is toy design. It's the field that requires a completely different approach from any other field of design. And what is valuable here is the playful aspect of it. If you have never worked as a toy designer before, but you want to get into this particular field, you really have to build your portfolio from scratch, because really showing any other industrial design related products will not get you there. My advice for a toy designer position portfolio would be probably design projects for different age groups, starting with babies and ending with, I don't know, teenagers probably, because the approach, like the design approach, will be very different if you're designing for babies and if you're designing for older, like generation. Speaking of the age, another group of products that you can also specialize on is products for elderly. Whether it is a product for elderly or for people with different disabilities, like including vision, mobility, etc., you also have to start with a very, very deep research, because not understanding what limitations these groups have, you will not be able to provide the best solution. Another big field is medical design, and it's not only different devices for hospitals, it also includes some handy stuff like inhalers, other products for home use, and it also includes a very big research, very close work with engineers, and also with doctors. Sports equipment is another big field. It includes different training tools, and also you can think about different sportswear, including the apparel and footwear. Footwear is usually considered a separate position, actually. So again, there are separate majors at university that teach footwear design, but it doesn't mean that being an industrial designer, you cannot specialize on it. So again, if you build your portfolio based on footwear project, it can open any doors for you, actually. Then we have automotive design, which includes public transportation as well as personal transport. You can think of cars, different scooters, as well as buses, taxis of any kinds. I remember I designed a driverless, the taxi that goes without a driver. And different kinds of very innovative solutions on wheels, basically. The next field is packaging. And this is something that comes between graphic and industrial design, but I would personally say that for an industrial designer, it's easier to enter this field because you think in 3D and packaging is a 3D product. But if you have a background in graphic design, you can certainly enter this field as well. So there are different kinds of packages. The first ones are the ones that are made of flat material, usually cardboard, that you could just cut it out and put together in a 3D, like three-dimensional shape. But another type of packaging is made in 3D, like bottles, different, let's say, food packaging. And even inside the packaging field, you can also choose something that you're more passionate about. So for example, I do a lot of beauty packaging for my clients, and it's mostly often like a cardboard package, but also bottles, packages for different cosmetics like lipsticks, creams and stuff like that. But also very, very often I have to design the labels for them. Next up is electronics. Again, this is a very broad field which can include a whole bunch of different products. And usually companies that produce different kinds of electronics, they specialize in something. So for example, hair dryers or products for hair. Or it can be something like, let's say, coffee machines. Or just kitchen supplies in general, the ones that have electronics base in them. Next up is robotics. And if you think about it, it can be robot for any needs, starting with logistics, ending with, I don't know, agriculture. And if you specialize on robotic stuff, I would definitely recommend you go into details and work out the engineering side as well. It's either in a collaboration with engineer, or if you yourself like sit down and really focus on all of those elements, because as a robotic designer you have to understand it. Like, I'm not saying that you have to go into the engineering aspect too deep, but at least you have to show in all of your cases, like case studies in your portfolio, that you understand how all of the elements go together in assembly and how they function when the robot moves. So this is very important. Another field that again comes in between industrial and, in this case, fashion design is accessories. Accessories can be of any kind, including jewelry, which is also a separate major at universities, as well as like specialization in like the real work world. But if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I myself started as a bag designer, and from my perspective, bags is something that like really needs the involvement of an industrial designer, not a fashion one. Don't get offended if you're a fashion designer, but I absolutely just don't understand why fashion designers don't think about the functionality, and they only like pay attention to how the bag will look like in addition to their fashion design collection. So I'm not trying to spread negativity here, and I'm not saying that all fashion designers don't think about functionality, but again, based on what I've experienced, they don't. And it's a great field to specialize on, because there are lots of fashion brands that want this functional aspect to get involved into their design process, so good thing to go into. So I guess these are all of the most common fields of industrial design that at least comes to my mind when I think about it. If I skipped any fields, please let me down in the comments and we can still discuss what opportunities are there. And thanks for watching, and I will see you in my next video.